Hi, welcome to Reddit Tea Time. I, 24 female, have been dating my boyfriend, 25 male, for 3 years, and we've been living together for the past 6 months. My boyfriend has a childhood friend, 24 male. They've been best friends forever. They've been friends from elementary school. He's been there for my boyfriend through his mother's protracted illness and eventual death, during a time period when we hadn't even met. He's like a brother to my boyfriend. My boyfriend speaks of him with a lot of respect and affection. The three of us hang out a lot. But this best friend of his is a bit of a... I'll let you pick the right word after I describe him to you. His relationships never last. One of the girls he dated was going to call the cops on him because he hit her and verbally abused her. He called my boyfriend, who then proceeded to talk her down and convince her not to go to the cops. My boyfriend then promised her that his friend would never bother her again. The whole thing threw me off, but I know my boyfriend. He's a gem of a person. The only reason that girl didn't press charges against his friend was because she knew she could trust my boyfriend to protect her and keep his word. I wanted to have nothing to do with his friend after that incident, but my boyfriend explained his friend's complicated past to me and rationalized his behavior. I let my boyfriend hang out with him, but I myself stayed away from him. Things eventually got better. His friend got therapy and seemed to be doing well. So for the sake of my boyfriend, I let him back into our lives. That was a mistake. Now that we've moved in together, I feel like his friend visits too often. He would order me around in our house. Get me this, get me that. My boyfriend would immediately smooth the situation by getting him that himself. One day when I snapped at his friend, he told my boyfriend right in front of me, "Get her under control." And my boyfriend apologized to him. Then after he left, he apologized to me for taking his side. I was left so confused and bewildered. The worst part is the way his friend looks at me. It just feels disgusting and wrong. I don't feel comfortable wearing shorts or sleeveless tops or low-cut tops in my own home when he visits. We have a 3-seater couch in our living room and 2 single-seaters. If I'm on the 3-seater, he would come sit right next to me. I've told my boyfriend this many times and he's stopped inviting him over, but that hasn't stopped his friend from coming over uninvited. Yesterday, he showed up when my boyfriend wasn't home and refused to leave before talking to my boyfriend first. I was forced to wait with him for my boyfriend to return. He steered the conversation towards our private life, talking about how all the girls were always throwing themselves at my boyfriend, how he never understood why, and he wanted me to explain what I like about my boyfriend that much. I didn't even reply to that question. He continued to pester me about it, asking, "Is it his penis?" I got up and walked out, leaving him to wait alone, even though I wasn't comfortable leaving him alone in our home. My boyfriend is unwilling to cut him off completely despite me begging him to do so a million times. I even threatened to break up with him. He just broke down. He promised he'll have a talk with his friend and set him in line. But he said he can't cut him off because he was there for him when no one else was. That he owed him. I love my boyfriend. He's the best person I've ever met in my life. He's a total saint, but I've had enough. I'm thinking of leaving him if he continues to be in contact with his friend. But I can't bring myself to leave, especially because we've never had any significant relationship troubles of our own making. I couldn't ask for a better man to be the father of my children, except this inability to cut off a rotting arm, in this case his best friend. He's just not someone who gives up on people. I'm at a crossroads here and need advice from people who have been in a similar situation. Now for some comments before the update. Your boyfriend is enabling his friend. I've had a complicated past, but I'm not an ass towards other people because having a bad history isn't an excuse to be one. He should be challenging his friend's behavior instead of tiptoeing around it and literally getting him out of trouble. Honestly, I don't blame you for wanting to walk. I don't think I could have stayed with someone knowing they had prevented a woman who had been assaulted from calling the cops. It's one thing to be a nice guy. It's another thing to be a doormat and enable bad behavior. I could not get past the part where your boyfriend protected and excuses a woman beater, and you allowed it. This alone is not okay. It's a huge red flag. And that you so easily moved on from it as an issue is not okay. You need to really reconsider what you think is acceptable or not. And you're not getting the creeps from your boyfriend who literally convinced a woman that she was not assaulted so that his friend wouldn't get in trouble? I'm all for forgiveness of past failings. But not if the person to forgive simply doesn't understand what they did that was wrong and why it's wrong. More specific to your situation. Any changes to your boyfriend or his friend are going to be a long way off. Lest you forget already, for 3 years you've been telling your boyfriend that you don't like his friend and don't like him around, and that he gives you the creeps and that he makes you feel unsafe and all that. And for 3 years, your boyfriend has done nothing. You say you have no relationship troubles of your own making, but this whole thing is something of your own making. Saints don't defend women beaters. You're not looking at him objectively. He's not a saint or a gem of a person. He literally manipulated and forced, verbally but still, a woman to not go report being beaten by his friend to the police. And this is the kind of man you think is a gem? His friend literally treats you like a maid in your own home, and when you stand up for yourself, he tells your boyfriend to control her. Like you're an animal and your boyfriend apologizes to him. The man who was so blatantly disrespectful to his girlfriend in front of him. Is this how saints act? Just because he's not a woman beater himself does not mean he's a gem of a person. He's an absolutely spineless man who has allowed his friend to steer his life in whichever direction he wants without ever complaining. Your boyfriend doesn't have any moral principles to speak of if they fly out the window the moment he has to defend his friend's abusive actions. He's the main problem in your relationship, and you cannot change him because he has chosen to have his moral principles be held hostage by a violent, abusive friend. That's completely on him. Now for the update. I posted over a week ago about my situation here. You were all kind enough to take the time to give me some real advice. I thought if my boyfriend could see it too, maybe it would serve as a wake-up call. So I threw caution into the air and showed him my Reddit post. He spent a long time reading the replies in silence, then went off on me for sharing private details about our life on the internet. He scolded me for making him look like an abuse enabler and accused me of not knowing the details of what happened. We got into a huge fight about it. I walked out on him and temporarily moved in with my cousin. Then today, I got a call from one of his co-workers asking why he had a busted lip and a swollen face. So I called him and asked to meet him. He said he got into a fight with his friend over me. I asked him to press charges and he refused. He said they're not on talking terms anymore, that it doesn't matter. He said he can't overlook the fact that I posted about him on the internet instead of talking to him, when in reality, that's all I've been doing for the past few years. I can't get past the fact that he's still unwilling to press charges on his friend after becoming his victim. We decided to break it off. We haven't figured out what we're going to do about the apartment or anything. I'm just crushed. I thought being away from me would finally bring him to his senses, but it turns out I was asking too much. I really hope I did the right thing. No idea how I'm going to deal with losing him. I can't help but feel like none of this would have happened if only I hadn't posted about him. I'm still not sure if this is a good thing. I guess only time will tell. I feel horrible about myself, but here I am doing it all over again. I could really use some words of wisdom right now. Now for some comments. I didn't read the original and I don't need to, at least to recognize that it's best you two split. I don't know what context would make any of this okay. It's probably best long-term that you two go your separate ways, even though it sucks and definitely was not what you expected. OP replied, "It's going to take some time for me to get back on my feet and sort out my feelings. If he had just asked me to come back, I would have willingly complied, but I suppose it's all for the best." Your story gave me chills. Guys like that creep are extremely dangerous. Breaking up with your boyfriend, who brings these kinds of dangerous people in your life, was the best thing you did. Trust me, you'll be extremely grateful for the choice you made. I am positive your boyfriend agrees with everything you wrote and all the advice you got in your previous post. Otherwise, he wouldn't go and fight with that creep. He's only angry because reading your post made him realize what kind of person he has been, and he didn't like it. Instead of acknowledging his flaws and working on them, he's blaming you and getting angry at you. He's only trying to comfort his wounded ego. OP replied, "Thank you." Read your original post and was appalled. He's absolutely an enabler of abuse and had zero respect for you. I know it hurts now, but you'll quickly realize you made the right decision. Go find someone who actually respects you and puts you first. OP replied, "Thank you." You did not make him look like an abuse enabler. His own actions did. Your ex is still not seeing the problem and accusing you of being wrong. He needs to stop pushing the blame on others and accept that him minimizing his friend's abuse is wrong. He needs to take responsibility for his actions. He has no leg to stand on to be mad at you. A ton of uninvolved outsiders agreed that if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, then it's a duck, or here an abuse enabler. I get that you feel horrible now, but once your inner turmoil calms down, you'll realize that you dodged a bullet here. I, 24 female, just started working full-time about 2 months ago. It's basically an entry-level job since it's mostly used as a stepping stone for more schooling and a way to get more experience, so it's $17.50 per hour. I want to go back to school, and before I get in or start, I was going to pay my undergraduate student loans because I have a lot. My academic scholarship only covered half, and I had to use loans for the rest. My parents, 60 female and 70 male, agreed and said my paychecks should go towards that since I still live at home. 2 days ago, they had me sit down to talk, and they said they're expecting me to transfer them the money I've made so far and each paycheck as I get them from now on. When I didn't agree right away, they asked if I was going to make a problem with them. They said it isn't my money and that we're supposed to be a team and they need my paychecks more, saying I don't need any money. I said I'd use it for loans and to save up for school. To kind of shorten things, they said I was being selfish, obsessing over money and that it isn't healthy. They said I should give them my money and if I need any, I can ask for some. They said they just paid the loans with the money in their accounts, which would then have my money in it if I gave it to them. I said I didn't want to do that. Since I'm working full-time now, I want to and definitely will contribute to bills and expenses, but I'm not going to hand over every paycheck. They make over $200,000 together, but they're so bad at managing finances. They'd spend my paychecks on more random stuff and I wouldn't be able to use it for school applications or loans, or at least not without them holding it over my head. My salary isn't enough for me to live on my own once I start paying my loans since the cost of living in my state is higher, but I at least would feel better knowing I'd have some money if I needed it. Sorry for the rant. I'm wondering how I should handle this situation or how I could explain to them that I'm not going to give them all of my paychecks. I'm living in their house and not paying rent, so part of me thinks they're right, but I don't know if it's from hearing their guilt trips and pressure. Now for some comments. I don't usually do the check their other posts and comments thing, but something told me to this time, and sure enough, the parents are in fact abusive. OP, controlling your money is just another control, abuse, manipulation tactic. If you take nothing else away from these comments, don't give them your money, even as rent or help with the bills, because they'll just tell you you owe all or nearly all your paycheck anyway. They'll be mad. They'll use every trick they have. They'll threaten to kick you out or hell, maybe actually kick you out. Which brings me to my second point. You gotta move out as soon as you realistically can. You might think you can't afford it, but with a roommate or two, I'm sure you can. Besides, your parents are trying to take all your money away, so if you're gonna be broke, you may as well have your own place away from them. I'm sorry your parents suck. The fact that you're even considering their proposal shows they've already done a number on you and probably also your siblings. I sincerely hope the best for you. And again, don't give them your money. I would tell them exactly what you're telling us here, which is that you don't mind helping out and paying a small part of your check as rent, but since you're starting to become your own person and grown, that you need to be able to start a savings and future for yourself. It should be you holding it and helping them when needed, not the other way around. This happened to me when I was 19, except I moved out because it was cheaper for me, and my parents were so surprised I never visited them for Christmas. I kept contact with my siblings but went low contact with them. Make sure to check your credit and lock it down. Parents like this aren't above taking out additional loans in your name. Make sure your money is going to a bank they have no affiliation with and keep your cards away from them. Not my 30 male relationship, but it's a mess as you can imagine. Basically, my wife, 35 female, went for a jog with her sister-in-law and another friend yesterday morning, and she was sitting in the back. Sister-in-law, 37 female, pulled out her phone, and my wife was able to briefly see the recipient, some romantic emojis, and sweet nothings. Over the last year or so, she's kind of been distancing herself from us, we think anyway. She always goes for drives or hangs out after CrossFit. It all adds up in retrospect, but man does it suck. We both have 2 kids each, and my brother-in-law, 41 male, makes more money than her, and I think he owns their house. We really have no idea what to do. They're the majority of our social life, but obviously that's going to change. Worst part? We're on holidays in cabins directly next to them. Any experience or advice is appreciated. Now for some comments. I think both of you should sit your brother down after the trip. Tell him what you saw and you're not sure what's going on. He needs to find the proof himself so he can confront her. Telling now would drag you into an uncomfortable position. It's their relationship, their conversation to have. Also, tell your brother to gather screenshots and get an attorney before he confronts her. Get him to secure his assets before things turn ugly. I understand that she's a major part of your social life, but she's cheating on your brother. She's throwing away her family for a fun time. He deserves to know. Tell him to check her phone or hire a private investigator. You need to tell him. She shouldn't get away with this. Try to get evidence to present it to him, unless he already knows. He's not going to believe it at first. Make sure you, your wife, and others he can trust are there for him. He's going to need that support. Also, find out what he wants to do. Divorce or reconcile. Don't say anything on the holiday. Get home and take the time to think about how you'll approach it. My husband, 35 male, hates me, 30 female. It's so obvious in the way that everything I do bothers him. He's constantly snapping at me. I feel like I'm walking on eggshells constantly. Everything I do is wrong. I was a size 4 when we got married and very much into fitness. But since having kids and not going to the gym as much, I've gained about 50 pounds and gone to a size 10. He's disgusted by me and it's so obvious. I know I need to leave. I'm a registered nurse, but for the past 2 years, I've been a stay-at-home mom with our kids. My youngest is starting at preschool in September, at which point I'll be able to start a job. I don't have childcare until then. I've looked into getting an apartment, but they all want proof of income. I'm just going to have to wait until then, aren't I? Anyone have advice? I'm just so lost as to what to do. He's destroyed my self-esteem to the point where I don't even know if I can get a job and be successful at this point. I'm so lost and confused. Now for some comments. Girl, you've got this. You'll get a job and it'll give you a sense of freedom and the extra motivation you need to stand your ground. OP replied, thank you. September is around the corner and you need to leave with deliberation and a plan. So make your decision, get your ducks in a row, figure out where you'll live, get a bank account at an entirely different bank, etc. And then when you can get a job and go, you can go and be successful at it. You could go to a women's shelter and they could help you make a plan and offer support. Edit. If you're in the US, United Way 211 can connect you to a women's center to help align the resources. You don't have to be physically abused to use these resources. Hey, you've got this. I think you should probably try to save any money that you can until then and talk to a lawyer. And just wanted to let you know that him snapping at you and being bothered by everything you do has 100% to do with him and 0% with you. Play the long game. Quietly plan your exit. Fantasize about what your next life will look like. Get back into the workforce and hire a lawyer. Just stay quiet about it until you have all the pieces in place. Make him think you'll never leave. September will be here before you know it.
What do you think? Please let me know in the comments below. If you liked this story and you've made it this far, please consider subscribing. I really appreciate you spending your valuable time with me. Hopefully, I'll see you in the next Reddit story. In the meantime, please take care of yourself. Bye for now.